Husband called me a fat cow. Husband called me a fat cow. Now, fat cow, that will bypass any kind of censorship. You can say that on TV. You can say that wherever, and you're not going to get in trouble. But that is the kind of insult, especially with a mom, especially dinging on her weight because she has had kids. That is something that you cannot come back from. There are certain insults that a person does just to get to the core of you. And this seems to be one of them. And I just want to remind us all that being single is better than this. And some of these husbands are the worst PR for marriage. Now, this woman posted in the marriage subreddit. She says, in a massive fight today, my husband called me a fat cow. This really hurt as I'm currently postpartum with our third baby. He knows I've struggled with body image, so he said this as the ultimate blow. I always end up losing the baby weight. This comment was just to hurt me. On top of it all, the fight was about the lack of appreciation I get as a stay-at-home mom of 3. I keep quiet most of the time, but today I blew up after he commented about a fork in the sink rather than in the dishwasher. I keep our home sparkling on top of creating a beautiful life for our family. He never comments on if I look good or say I look beautiful, even when I put makeup on and dress up. It really hurts. And if it wasn't for these children, I don't think I'd be sticking around. So she is coming to the realization that she really is a wife appliance. She is here to serve him. And she did not do her job fully. She left a fork in the sink. And she's a wife appliance. Why are you expecting this man to compliment his utility? That would be like complimenting the dishwasher. That would be like complimenting the washer and dryer. You're not a human to him. You are an incubator. You're here to cook and clean. You are a bang maid. You're here to take care of his kids, and that's it. That is the extent of things. And she is kind of realizing that right now. He called her a fat cow because he does not care about her feelings. You don't call someone a fat cow if you actually care about them, support them, want them to heal mentally, physically, emotionally, after all that goes along with creating a baby, building one, and then labor. It's a lot. Sleep deprivation is a lot, and having 2 other children on top of that is a lot as well. Being a stay-at-home mother, yes, it is a noble calling. I was a stay-at-home mom for some years, and I had a husband that was a provider as well. I get that. It is great to be able to bond with your children and all of that, but it does set you up if you need to get away, that you do have to execute a game plan. You have to figure out childcare. You have to try to figure out how to stitch together a resume to find a job. And this woman is going to have to get out of this situation because right now she is seeing that she is nothing but a utility to this man. If you could call someone a fat cow, you have no consideration of their humanity, especially after having children. That this really upsets me, but I'm obviously on team make these dudes lonely. I say that like several times a day. I did comment on her post. She says, your kids will learn this is what a relationship is. Staying for the kids gives them a baseline of dysfunction. Now, the thing is, I don't necessarily know if she was saying at the bottom, if it wasn't for these kids, I don't think I'd be sticking around. Is she sticking and staying so that the kids have a 2-parent household? Or is she just saying that she would just pick up and go if she could? I don't know. But regardless, she needs to create a game plan to extricate herself from this situation, get herself some income and figure things out. Because that right there tells me that you have a husband that is not emotionally intelligent and does not love and support and care for her. And our children, kids deserve to see a healthy relationship with a healthy mother and a man in the house that is not willing to cut someone down just to win an argument. Cut Environmental says, damn, I'm so sorry. What a horrible thing to say. Zealous Ideal says, tell him if you're a fat cow, he's full of bull. Tell him he can go milk himself. That was so mean. A postpartum mom is one of God's most beautiful creatures, and it's so sad that he does not appreciate you. I hope you insist on counseling. Good luck. Dangling participle, she gives this video, and he is doing a motion that is like milking a cow, but just in front. And underneath it says, LOL, yes, telling him he can go milk himself is top tier. Odd Mite says, that was cruel. No one deserves to be spoken to like that, especially after everything you're doing for the family. You deserve kindness and support. Business Summer says, that's heartbreaking. She deserves way more respect and kindness than that. I'll end with this comment from Mish Elegance saying, I don't know that you can ever come back from something like that. Name calling is so dirty. He is showing you who he is, OP, and it doesn't sound like he is a man of honor or character. You don't deserve to be treated this way. I tell him the next time he does something like that, you're going to consult with the family law attorney, but you have to meet it if you say it. Don't give an ultimatum unless you plan on standing behind it. Not sure if counseling is something that would be beneficial, but I personally know that I'd be handing him my walking papers. Then again, I don't have any children with my husband, but if he called me names, I'd be making a plan B. Actually, I already have one in my back pocket because I had to leave a relationship with someone where somebody wasn't good to me, but I think I chose wisely this time, and I'm actually with a good guy. You deserve that as well, especially somebody who is a great provider for your family, somebody who puts you on a pedestal as their wife and the mother of their children. You deserve the world. And, this is the reason why we continue to have these conversations. I don't know what this woman is going to do, but this is one of the main reasons why I will continue to say that we need to push our daughters to get their education and to get their financial grounding and their career achievements under their belts. Even if they do take some time out of the workforce, which we have been talking about as well, it could happen if you do decide to have children. But the thing is, when you are sometimes women are so young when they get married and then they don't have the career experience, they don't have the education, it makes it that much harder to walk away from these situations. That's the reason why I will continue to say that women need to have a plan, B, C, D, E, F, G, elemental P, all of the plans, not just a plan B, but a plan B, C, D, E, F, G, elemental P, all of the plans, because you just do not know. You can be in a relationship with an amazing person. Layoffs happen. Disability happens. A shift in environment happens to where you need to move. Things happen. So always have a game plan and always be prepared and be ready to pivot if necessary. So y'all go ahead, though, and join the conversation and let me know what you think of this one. Listen to this title. Am I overreacting for canceling my husband's job interview because he was planning to move without telling me? He was planning to move without telling me. Absolutely, you're not overreacting. Honestly, you should have just let him do the job interview and just leave because the trash was taking itself out. He obviously did not want to be in a relationship with you if he is moving without telling you. He does not plan to move with you. So that would be my only critique just based off of this title alone. Her husband was planning on leaving. And this is the thing. When people spout those numbers, is always somewhere between 70 and 80% of women are the ones filing for the divorce. They are filing for the divorce because men will leave a relationship without doing the paperwork. So the woman is forced to do the admin. But anyways, let's look at this whole post already saying, no, you're not overreacting, but let's look at the post. So she's 29, he's 32. She says, so I've been married to my husband for 4 years. Things have been fine, some ups and downs like any marriage, but lately he's been distant, always on his phone, weirdly secretive about emails and acting stressed. This man is having an affair and he's trying to move to where his mistress is. She says, last week I accidentally saw an email pop up on our shared laptop from a recruiter about an out-of-state job. When I asked him about it, he brushed it off and said that was just something he was considering. But here's the thing, the job was in another state, 8 hours away. Later that night, I checked, yes, I know that's not great, and found out he had already scheduled an interview. filled out relocation forms, and even looked up apartments. He hadn't said a word to me about it. Looked up apartments, filled out relocation forms, and didn't speak to her about it. This dude is planning on leaving without saying a word. And didn't have the wherewithal to cover his tracks. He was sloppy with it. I confronted him and he said he didn't want to tell me until it was a sure thing. I told him that's not how marriage works. You don't secretly plan to move states. So I canceled the interview. I replied to the recruiter politely, saying he was no longer interested. He found out the next day and completely lost it. Said I sabotaged his future, not their future, sabotage his future, and crossed a boundary. I told him he crossed the boundary first by planning to move without me. Now he's staying with his brother, and my friends are torn. Some say I went too far and should have let him make his own decisions. Others say he's the one who nuked the trust first. So Reddit, am I overreacting for canceling my husband's job interview after finding out he was secretly planning to move away without telling me? Absolutely not overreacting. And he did nuke her trust first. He's blown up the relationship. But like I said early on, just even based on the title alone, she just should have let the trash extricate itself. Obviously, it would be great to have a game plan so that, yes, she can figure out the finances and bills without him and all of that. And that was very rude of him. So he was going to sabotage her life. So I do think that it's only fair that she sabotaged his. But now with the update at the bottom, she says, sorry, not much of an update. He has been staying with his brother. We haven't talked much at all. He was already planning on leaving her. And the reason why she sabotaged his future was because he was just leaving this woman and was getting his ducks in a row to leave her. And then she was made aware of it. But the thing is, now she can heal. She sees that her relationship is over. There's no salvaging this. This is not a relationship that's even worthy of crying over. Aubrey Gray says, you aren't overreacting, but you know what's going on, right? The man is leaving without the divorce. And that's the reason why I said this is the reason why it's like between 70 and 80% of women filing for divorce. It's not always women leaving a marriage first. These dudes will leave just without the paperwork. Suspicious ad says, sounds like he was setting up to quietly leave. If the marriage wasn't over because of that, it sure is now. Fishman says, I know I would leave. Eureka says, even if he's wrong, you have no right to do what you did. It's not your job or your place to control what he does. You may not like it, but his choices are up to him. Sounds like this marriage is over. I disagree with that, though. He was going to sabotage her life just by leaving her. He was going to sabotage her. So I'm perfectly fine with her doing what she did because she sabotaged him. But now it buys a little bit more time. I don't know what she needs more time for, but at least she can get her ducks in a row and she's not blindsided. Grace says, even if he wasn't planning to leave before, he is now. Holy crap, I would be livid if someone did that. So they are really upset with her. And Single Permission is also upset with her. You both suck. You are both in the wrong here. The thing is, she reacted to his suckiness. He deserved that because he was being sucky. So he deserves some suckiness in return. Ambitious Ware says, what an a-hole move on his part. He was going to hit you with, I'm moving for this job. You can join or not. I'm going. And then Indigore Kid says, I don't think he intended for her to go with him. Presto Nee says, I knew what was coming when you described the beginning of your lifetime together as fine. Definitely over the line to cancel the interview because it could have been an all-time role. But it seems that a serious conversation needs to be had because there should be more trust, in my opinion. And then, like I said, a lot of these people, and there's only 64 comments, are blaming the woman. Designer Voice says, I'm sorry, he might have done wrong, but what you did was much worse. And to that, I disagree. But with that, I will say, I want to know your answer to that. Do you think he was worse or she was worse? I think that what he did was worse because he started this ball rolling. He was the one that was underhanded in the beginning, and she reacted to that. So I think that he was worse, but I do want you to chime in and let me know what you think. This woman was voluntold that she was going to do something. She said no. She had a boundary around her time and energy, and now she is the villain. Sometimes you're going to have to be the villain. When you say no to giving your time, energy, or resources, that will make some other people, that will make them upset. They will get uncomfortable because you have the nerve to have a boundary. And so that is what this story is about. So she's 29, the husband is 31. This woman posted this in the Two Hot Takes subreddit. She says, my husband volunteered me for 2 overnight babysits a week without asking, and now I'm the villain. The nerve, because that is a lot of work, 2 overnight babysits a week. Now, listen to this part. She says, I work 4 12-hour shifts as a nurse. 4 12-hour shifts. That is a lot. Nights every other week. My sleep is a Jenga tower. Husband's sister had a baby 3 weeks ago. Dad is not in the picture. I love my nephew and have been dropping off meals, folding laundry when I can. Yesterday, a group chat lights up and sister-in-law thanks me for agreeing to do 2 overnights every week so she can rest. I said, what? Husband goes, oh, I mentioned you are a great night nurse and you said you want to help. I never said that. I said I can do a few hours when I'm off. I told sister-in-law I cannot commit to nights. She starts crying on speaker, says she's drowning and thought family had her back. Husband gives me that look like I am being cold. Then his mom texts that she raised 3 kids and never had help, but good women step up. I pointed out that I handle rent share, groceries, and I already covered the dog and yard while husband is training for a marathon. He says the marathon is his mental health and that I'm good with little sleep, so this is not a big deal. So he is unwilling to shift around his life and his training, but she's okay with not having any sleep, even though her job is around caring for people. Okay. His hobby is more important than her sleep, is what he just said right there in that sentence. He's training for a marathon. He cannot jack up his mental health. He can jack up her sleep, though. I got petty and printed my next month's schedule, highlighted every 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. I asked him which 2 nights he will cover since he volunteered our household. He said that is different because he is bad with babies. I replied that I am bad with being awake for 36 hours. Now he is sleeping on the couch on his own choice and calling me unsupportive. Am I missing something here, or is this a hard boundary I should keep? This is definitely a hard boundary you should keep because, like, they don't give a good goddamn about her physical health. That impacts your life. That impacts your work. That impacts everything. They're going to have to be upset. And if this is a deal breaker and he's going to have to extricate himself, then that's what he'll have to do. But it's not fair to volunteer someone else's time or energy. That is not cool. This is a boundary to have. And I keep having these conversations around boundaries because so many people are perfectly fine with pushing through your boundaries and they feel entitled to your time, energy, and resources. And until we start having a conversation about saying no, this is going to continue to happen. Let's look at some of the comments. Cosmic Lust Lobster, I like that name. Cosmic Lust Lobster says, dude, not the a-hole. He overstepped by a mile. Volunteering someone else's time and energy for such a huge task is inconsiderate AF. I get family helping each other out, but that's some bull crap. He shouldn't have assumed just because you're a nurse and pushing your mental and physical help for this ain't worth it. Stick to your guns and don't let them guilt trip you. Run your own marathon, girl, of self-respect and boundaries. Yes, I do believe that is a great way to put that. Run your own marathon, girl, of self-respect and boundaries. This is something that takes practice. You don't just jump right into it having it, because in some families you're not allowed to have boundaries. Please know and understand that not everybody is allowed to have an opinion, not allowed to speak up for themselves in a family. It's just like that. And so that's the reason why you get into some of these relationships and some women are not versed in speaking up for themselves. It is a process. And that is why I continue to have these conversations surrounding boundaries, boundaries in relationships, boundaries in families, boundaries around work, boundaries with some friendships. You have got to have some boundaries. You got to know that your time, energy, and resources they're limited. And what are you willing to give without harming yourself? Those are some of the questions that you got to ask yourself. Gold Challenge says, and I love how the mother-in-law says she raised her kids alone. Yeah, then sister-in-law should be capable of handling one kid on her own, or mother-in-law can help with the overnights. And then Softy Loom says, right, if mother-in-law did it all solo, then she should understand better than anyone how hard that is. Either step up to help or stop guilt tripping. Tall Confection says, yes to both. Does mother-in-law not see this as both a contradiction and an offer? OP is not the a-hole. Husband should remain on the couch. If a marathon is more important to him, that says a lot about his priorities should they decide to have kids of their own. Yes, perfect. That is perfect because his life will not change. His hobbies will not change. He is showing that in that moment that he can't even take over for 2 nights. He knows that babies need an adult for 2 nights, but he is unwilling to do it. Why All Username says, he's training so hard for that marathon, he ran past that boundary without even knowing. Softy Loom says, couldn't agree more. Volunteering your partner's time without asking is next level disrespect. She's already running on fumes, not volunteering for a second unpaid job. Beneficial Jury says, oh my God, yes, I kept replaying this in my head and thinking maybe I'd be overreacting, but volunteering someone else's nights like that is insane and exhausting. Like, how do you get the nerve? I don't get this. Where do you even get the nerve to do that from? It seems like everybody is on the same page. Tarzan Kitty says, why can't your husband be his sister's night nanny? Does his penis make childcare too difficult for him? That is the thing. When you have a uterus, that makes you more eligible or more knowledgeable about childcare. You just have to have a uterus. That's the problem. Ken says, well, his marathon training gets in the way too. Corey Snap says, didn't you know owning a penis means you're exempt from baby care? Tarzan Kitty says, OP's husband seems to think it is. Otherwise, he would step up for family instead of volunteering his wife. Okay, I'm going to end it there. Y'all go ahead and chime in and let me know what you think about this one. I was asked to talk about what is going on in South Africa, and I have not had a chance to do a deep dive on my own. Thankfully, I came across a video where a lady, and it's just 1 minute, is talking about why people are changing their profile pictures to purple. So go ahead and watch this 1 minute clip. And then after that 1 minute clip, I'm going to play a video from this woman, Hospice Care Julie, and she's talking about how these old men in hospice care are inappropriate. So I am going to end with 2 short clips after this video of mine, because I do think that what's going on in South Africa and being aware of what is going on with women and children globally, women and girls globally, is so important. And I love that we have a global community. I don't always see everything because we have so much going on here, but it's so important that we understand what is going on in the global world with women and girls. So go ahead, watch this 1 minute clip and then watch what's going on from hospice nurse Julie. All right, y'all, chime in, like, comment, share. Thank you all for helping me get to 90,000 subscribers. I appreciate y'all. And let's just keep the conversations going. Keep on letting me know what I need to look into and highlight. And I will do the best that I can. I can't always get to things, though. I am definitely over flooded with tags. All right, y'all. Let me know what you think.
Why is everyone's profile picture purple now? Because the violence against women and children in South Africa has reached a devastating level. I did a little bit of research and what I found is truly heartbreaking. Every day in South Africa, at least 15 women are murdered and 115 women report being raped to the police. A woman is murdered every 3 hours. The femicide rate is 6 times higher than the global average. The organization Women for Change South Africa is calling on all women in the country to take part in the shutdown on November 21st. One day before the G20 summit begins in Johannesburg. So how can you take part on November 21st whether you're in South Africa or anywhere else in the world? Don't work no paid or unpaid labor, don't spend money, withdraw from the economy for one day. Join the 15-minute standstill at 12 p.m. Lie down for 15 minutes to honor the 15 women murdered every day. Wear black as a sign of mourning and resistance. Change your profile picture to purple to show solidarity online. Talk about it, share it, make this shutdown impossible to ignore. No woman is free until every woman is free, even if her shackles look very different from mine.
I am done placating older men who are being weird and inappropriate with women. Me, I'm the woman they're being inappropriate with. Just because they're like old and don't know any better. No. I'm done doing it. And I didn't say anything rude to him. I just didn't make myself laugh. I didn't go, ah, ha, 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 and like laugh at his jokes. I just was like, what? I don't understand. And then he's like, oh, I'm just joking. And I just like stared at him. I'm just like, I'm done. I don't care that you're 80 years old and you mean no harm. Your weird, inappropriate jokes to me, a stranger who's trying to mind her own business and eat her food in peace. You can't just come up to my table and say inappropriate, weird jokes about a vibrator and like all the cool girls hang out by the guy's bathroom. That's what he said to me. And I was like, what? And he goes, you're by the guy's bathroom. All the cool girls hang out by the guy's bathroom. And then like I had one of those like table things that like vibrate once your food's ready. And he implied something about how I need to stop leaving my vibrator on the table. This man's like 85 years old. Where did you come from? Why are you talking to me? And why are you making like inappropriate pervy jokes? Normally I'd be like, ha ha ha, oh, okay. Nah, I'm in no mood, grandpa. So I just went like, what? And then he said it again and laughed and was like, oh, I'm just kidding. And I just like stared at him again being like, can I help you? Like, what do you do? Like, go with your family and eat food. Quit coming up to me. I'm trying to eat in peace. What is going on? Anyway, I'm done placating just because you're an old man who doesn't know any better. I'm done. I'm not doing it anymore. I'm getting my period. Can you tell?